Okay. Did you guys know that increased stress can actually increase your belly fat? How it does that is by when you're stressed, your body releases these array of hormones, and they're not supposed to be in your blood system. And when it's there in your blood system, your body's like, oh, it's not supposed to be here, so it finds the quickest way to store it somewhere other than your blood system. And the quickest way is in the layer of fat called the greater omentum that covers your stomach organs. So when the hormones go in there, the fat tissue is called adipose cells, it actually expands in the stomach layer. So that's how increased stress can increase belly fat. I think that stress is a common problem today in our, not problem, but it's very common today for a lot of people because of all the roles that everyone takes on. And I thought this picture was kind of interesting because we're students, or we're workers, or we're students and workers, and we're family members, and we might be spouses or moms and dads. So I think the feeling of stress in this society is almost inevitable. I wanted to talk to you guys today about stress and the 3 parts of stress. According to the American Psychological Association, they term stress in 3 stages. The first stage is acute stress, the second stage is episodic acute stress, and the third stage is chronic stress. The definition of stress that I'm going to give you guys today was coined up by Hans Selye in 1936. He was a neuroendocrinologist who spent more than half his life researching the effects of stress on the human body. And he made his own definition of stress, which is any nonspecific response of the body to any demand for change. So the first subcategory of stress is called acute stress, and this is defined by the American Psychological Association as the feelings from the demands and pressures of the recent past and the anticipated feelings of the demands and pressures of the near future. So I think this is common. It's either can be a stressful job, like you're a waitress and your table just got slammed with a whole bunch of people, and the feeling of stress just starts to overwhelm you. Or you're a student and you figured out that you have 3 tests on Monday, and you're like, oh man, how am I going to have time to study for that? This type of stress isn't necessarily bad for you. It's actually the University of Maryland Medical Center said it's actually kind of good. It can cause our lives to not be dull. It can cause it to be kind of exciting and thrilling because of the stress because of the effects that this type of stress has on our bodies. It can increase your heart rate. It can increase your blood pressure. It can make your senses sharper and increase your stamina, and actually can increase your focus and prepare your body for a fight or flight mechanism. So an example of this, or in small doses where it can be thrilling, is let's imagine that we are cooks at a restaurant and you are planning up for a party, and you look at the clock and you just realize, oh my gosh, I have 10 minutes to get this party out on time for our guests. And you're starting to feel stress, and the hormones start to rush through your body, and your heart starts to beat faster, and your blood pressure starts to increase, and your stamina increases, and your attention to detail increases, and it actually can make you work a little harder and faster than you did before. Now, if you get your food out on time, the most stressful part of your day just became the most thrilling. So that's just a little example of how in small doses it can be exciting. It can also be aggravating and can make people little aggravated or confrontational. If you're so overwhelmed with 3 stress, you may not always want to stop and enjoy the roses. You're just kind of overwhelmed by all this stuff. If you have acute stress more than once, like occasionally, a lot, it can lead up to episodic acute stress, which is termed by the American Psychological Association of a life filled with chaos, never being able to catch up. Now, this can be from a really hard school load. You took on maybe too many classes and you can never feel like you're on top of your studies, or it can be from a really hard job that they just want so much of your time and so much of your resources that you feel that you might not have. This can lead to dysfunction in your lives and on your physical body. It can lead to dysfunction on your lives is by, I'm going to give you guys a couple stats, and they're all from the American Psychological Association. The first one is over 54 Americans claimed that stress caused them to fight with loved ones, which I think is really common because we all know for stress it can cause us to snap at people that we love. And more than half Americans say that stress has a negative impact on their personal life and on their professional life. So it just doesn't stop at home. It can carry on to work. And 1 in 4 people say that stress alienates them from a family member or a friend, and 8% out of those 1 in 4 say that they connected stress with their divorces. If you have a life filled with stress, that goes on to the 3rd stage, which is called, oh wait, I'm not done talking about episodic stress, sorry. So that was just their effects on your daily life. Now I'm going to talk about their effects on your body. So according to the American Institute of Stress, episodic stress can cause cardiovascular disturbance, which can lead to heart palpitations or heart murmurs. So it can affect your cardiovascular system. It can affect your gastrointestinal system. If you get nervous, it can actually cause your intestines to cramp, which can lead to irritable bowel syndrome. It can affect your immune system by it decreases our resistance to certain viral-caused infections. It can be like the flu, or it can even be like herpes, which is a virus-caused infection. Interesting stat by the American Institute of Stress says that 75 to 90% of visits to a primary care physician are all for stress-related complaints. Now, if you have a life filled with episodic stress, it can grow to chronic stress. Chronic stress has potentially the worst threats to our bodies. Hans Selye, like I mentioned before, the neurochronologist, he did tons of studies on stress, and I researched it, and just so much information, I decided to kind of like layman's terms it for you a lot. And basically he said, because stress weakens our immune system, because of all the hormones and all the stuff that's going through our bodies that's not supposed to be there for long periods of time, it basically leaves us susceptible to all kinds of viruses and diseases. So Hans Selye actually connected all the diseases and all the sicknesses that we have because of stress. That was just one endocrinologist in his opinion. It does, though, there are been proven tests that it leaves our body more prone to heart attacks and strokes if you have a life filled with stress. And they're actually doing tests right now. The American Institute of Stress and the American Psychological Association are doing tests to connect stress with certain virus cancers, virally infected cancers. So that is the 3 stages of stress. I wanted to share with you guys the effects of the stress and their pros and cons. Not always bad, it can be good too. So there's 3 types of stress: acute stress, episodic acute stress, and chronic stress. And I wanted to leave you guys with an analogy that I found on the American Institute of Stress. It says, stress in our lives is like the amount of tension on a violin string. Not enough produces a dull, raspy sound, and too much, an irritating screech, or can even snap the strings. But just the correct degree of stress creates a beautiful tone. Thank you.